In 1995, Sega was preparing for its next big leap, the launch of the Saturn. A new generation, a new beginning. And then, in a move that can only be described as extremely Sega, they released another add-on for the Mega Drive. Late 94 saw the birth of the 32X, a peripheral so baffling it made the Sega CD look like a sensible investment. The 32X was doomed from the get-go. Developers were blindsided, consumers confused, and even Sega's marketing team probably needed a stiff drink. The next major Sonic title was originally meant to debut on the Saturn, but due to this swirling hardware hurricane, it crash-landed on the 32X instead. And thus, Knuckles Chaotix was born, a game starring everyone's favorite red echidna and exactly 0 blue hedgehogs. Its origins are even stranger when you realize it evolved from a prototype called Sonic Crackers, a Mega Drive experiment featuring Sonic and Tails connected by an elastic band. The tether idea survived, the Hedgehog didn't. Over the years, Knuckles Chaotix has become somewhat of a Sonic black sheep. It's one of the few titles from that era that's never been re-released. Not on the GameCube compilations, not on Steam, not even hidden inside a fridge in Yakuza. It's like Sega's pretending it never happened. Which begs the question, is it that bad? Now, you know I love to play games on original hardware. There's just something romantic about blowing into cartridges and pretending it helps. But when it comes to the 32X, there's a line, and that line is, I'm not buying one. The add-on is expensive, the game is even more expensive, and honestly, I value both my wallet and my shelf space. So I had to go the emulation route. Sue me. Please don't. And there's something poetic about playing this one right now. I'm visiting my dad in Sweden, the exact same place where my gaming life began in the early 90s, playing Sonic for the first time. So it feels oddly fitting to come back to the franchise here, 3 decades later, and finally tackle one of its strangest chapters. I've never played Knuckles Chaotix before, so I'm heading into this with fresh eyes and moderate expectations. I just want to know why it's become such an oddity. What is Sega hiding? Join me as I find out whether Knuckles Chaotix is a misunderstood gem or if it was buried for good reason.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Dr. Robotnik is once again up to no good. This time he set his sights on Carnival Island, a flashy amusement park that for some reason also houses a mysterious energy source called the Chaos Rings. Not the Chaos Emeralds, Chaos Rings. Totally different thing. Anyway, he's building yet another evil base. This one is called the New Tragic High Zone, and to help him with his vaguely defined scheme, he's got Metal Sonic in tow, because why not? Knuckles catches wind of this and shows up to stop Robotnik. Along the way, he frees a bunch of characters that no one's ever heard of before. Together, they team up to take back the island, collect the Chaos Rings, and shut down Robotnik's carnival-flavored villainy. Alright, let's talk about how this game actually plays, and oh boy. Knuckles Chaotix is a 2D platformer in the Sonic tradition, but before you start picturing smooth loops and classic speed, let me stop you right there. Because this game has a gimmick. A very specific, very physics-based, very we swear this made sense on paper gimmick. Every level in Knuckles Chaotix is played with 2 characters tethered together by an elastic ring. Yes, Sega looked at Sonic's momentum-based platforming and thought, you know what this needs? Resistance and unpredictable slingshot physics. So Knuckles or whoever you pick is permanently attached to a partner character by what is essentially a giant rubber band. You can't separate, you can't leave, you are bonded for life. It's like a co-op game with a clingy friend who won't stop yanking your arm. You're not just fighting enemies, you're fighting physics and occasionally your will to continue. We'll get more into detail on this topic as we go along. Now let's meet the cast of Chaotix. 7 playable characters, each putting their own spin, sometimes literally, on the rubber band chaos. Knuckles the Echidna is our headliner and baseline hero. He handles just like you'd expect if you've ever played Sonic and Knuckles. He runs fast, he spin dashes, and crucially, he still has that trademark glide and wall climb ability. In practical terms, Knuckles becomes the group's all-terrain problem solver. See a tall cliff? Knuckles can just climb it. Miss a jump? He'll glide down safely, often yanking his partner partner along for the ride like a hang glider tethered to a bungee cord. He's the most balanced of the bunch. Not the fastest or flashiest, but reliable in almost any situation. Of course, that doesn't mean life is easy, especially when Knuckles ends up literally dragging a less agile buddy up a wall, but at least he isn't the one causing the trouble. In many ways, Knuckles plays the responsible straight man amid Chaotix's eccentric lineup, dutifully gliding in to save the day or his partner whenever physics get out of hand. Mighty the Armadillo is another would-be Sonic mainstay with a strange origin story. He actually predates Chaotix, having first appeared in an arcade game called Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, where he starred alongside Sonic and Ray the Flying Squirrel in a trackball-controlled adventure that was only ever released in Japan, and even there, barely. He's actually the fastest runner in the game. Mighty sprints down straightaways like he's trying to break the sound barrier, only to be snapped back by the rubber band when his partners can't keep up. His special trick is a wall jump, basically ricocheting off walls to reach higher areas. In theory, this makes him an acrobatic daredevil, bouncing upwards like a pinball. In practice, it's a bit like watching someone do parkour with a bungee cord tied to their waist. Mighty's strength is momentum, but it doubles as his weakness if you don't keep that momentum in check. He's the adrenaline junkie of the crew, constantly testing how far that elastic friendship will stretch before it snaps back, sometimes painfully so. Espio the Chameleon brings a ninja flair and a blatant disregard for gravity. Sega clearly decided that being a chameleon meant he should walk everywhere, including straight up walls and across ceilings. Espio can stick to and sprint along surfaces that would send others plummeting, which turns level layouts on their head. Vertical shafts, upside down stretches of track, Espio treats them all like his personal sidewalk. This leads to some delightfully absurd moments where one character is casually running along the ceiling while the partner dangles below, their tether twisting around like a confused rubber band pretzel. If you've ever wanted to break a platformer by simply refusing to fall, Espio's your guy. He even packs a horde head strong enough to smash certain badniks just by charging into them at full tilt. Espio's ability can totally change how you approach a level. It's like he's cheating at physics in a way only a neon purple ninja lizard could. The weakness? There's not always much benefit to all that wall crawling. And if you're not careful, you'll turn the tether into a tangle. Charmy B is the wild card that all but breaks the game's platforming rules. A tiny flying cheat code disguised as a bee. Charmy's ability is simple and outrageous. Unlimited flight. Tap the jump button and instead of a spin attack, he buzzes off the ground and keeps going, freely zipping around in any direction as long as you like. In a platformer built around tricky jumps and cooperative physics, Charmy just yawns and takes to the skies. It's as liberating as it sounds. Vertical elevator sections, bottomless pits, elaborate platform puzzles, all reduced to, why not just fly over it? He can literally carry the team, dragging his partner behind like a kite on a string as he explores every nook and cranny. And if you've drawn a cumbersome partner, heavy. Charmy's flight lets you haul that weight around with far less fuss. In fact, the infamous pro strategy is Charmy leading with heavy in tow, effectively giving you an invincible wrecking ball that you can airlift anywhere. Charmy makes the game easier, no question, almost to the point of feeling like an unintended easy mode. But he comes with a couple of quirks. For one, being in constant flight means Charmy doesn't use the normal spin jump attack, so unless you slam into an enemy, you can't bop them the usual way. You either need to expertly aim your tiny bee body at badniks or rely on your partner to do the dirty work. Also, the tether can still complicate things. If your partner is on foot and you take off, you'll feel their weight tugging at you. Fly too fast or too far and you'll end up flinging your friend around like a dog on a leash at the park. In short, Charmy turns Knuckles Chaotix into something closer to a one-character game, with the second character reduced to a literal tag-along. It's a blast for sightseeing and snagging hard-to-reach items, but maybe a bit too good at nullifying challenges. Still, given how chaotic the tether can be, having one character who lets you hit the skip nonsense button now and then is a relief. Vector the Crocodile crashes the party as the big, bombastic bruiser with a surprising acrobatic streak. He's a crocodile in high tops and headphones, so naturally his approach to platforming is part brute force, part breakdance. Vector's notable ability is a mid-air dash. It's another opportunity for the tether to do something ridiculous. Used wisely though, that dash gives Vector a welcome bit of control over his jumps. He can correct his trajectory or grab some extra distance when he's just shy of a ledge. Vector is also strong enough to climb walls, using sheer upper body power to go hand over hand up vertical surfaces. Between that and his dash, he's actually quite versatile in navigating stages. His larger larger size and strength give the impression he's harder to slow down. He often feels a bit less twitchy on the tether than lighter characters do, so he sits in a comfortable middle ground. Fun fact, he was originally designed for Sonic 1 back when Sega flirted with the idea of a Sonic band to handle the music inside the game. That concept was scrapped, but Vector lived on, eventually showing up here with his Walkman and inexplicable swagger. And then we had the two special buddies, Heavy and Bomb, who I suspect snuck in from a buddy cop comedy or a cruel social experiment. These two can't actually be picked as your main character. More on that soon. Heavy is a robot who lives up to his oh-so-creative name. He's heavy. Very heavy. In gameplay terms, Heavy moves with all the urgency of a rusting fridge in about the same grace. He plods slowly behind you, weighing down the elastic tether like an anchor tied to your waist. Try to take off at full speed and you'll feel him resisting, the band growing taut until either he finally lurches forward or you get snapped back. For a Sonic spin-off, that's absurd. Now to be fair, Heavy has one redeeming feature. He's basically indestructible. Spikes, enemies, hazards, nothing phases Heavy, and in fact he'll destroy any breakable baddie or item monitor just by walking into it. He's the ultimate bodyguard. Except he might actually be causing more danger by constantly dragging you into awkward positions. On steep hills or in vertical sections, Heavy can become literal dead weight, dangling and pulling the player down or backward until you figure out how to slingshot around him. The result is a character who embodies weakness as a gameplay feature, a bold design choice to put it mildly. Finally, Bomb. This little robot is basically a sentient cartoon bomb with legs and the temperament of a spooked chihuahua. Unlike Heavy, Bomb is lightweight. At first you might think, hey, this won't be so bad, he can keep up. And it's true, Bomb doesn't slow you down the way Heavy does. But Bomb has a different problem. He explodes. If an enemy so much as sneezes in his direction or if he gets jostled too hard, he'll detonate on the spot. When Bomb goes boom, it's not just a visual gag, the explosion damages everything nearby, including you, his supposed ally. You're always one mishap away from a literal blow-up. In a way, Bomb turns the game into a test of caution. You suddenly care a lot more about that one stray crab bot on the platform ahead, because if Bomb touches it, you're in for a world of hurt. In the grand scheme, Heavy and Bomb feel like the developer's light touch of absurdity made manifest. Two joke characters that do meaningfully affect gameplay. Love them or hate them, you'll definitely remember them. Before you leap into Knuckles Chaotix proper, the game offers a training mode. On the surface, Isolated Island is a lush tropical jungle floating outside New Trogic High Zone. In training, it becomes your physics playground. No enemies, no hazards. Just platforms, springs, walls, and different colored skies in all of the 4 stages. You pick a random partner, bop around until you find the end, and boom, you've trained enough to get dumped back to the title screen. Any attempt to teach you actual controls? Not really. At the very least, training mode gives you a low-stakes playground to test out some of the game's unique power-ups. Alongside the usual suspects, ring monitors and power sneakers, you'll stumble upon some stranger tech. Like the shrink monitor, which doesn't just make your character adorably tiny, it also nerfs your jump height and movement speed. Then there's the swap monitor, which lets you switch control to your combi partner, a mechanic that exists solely so you can actually play as Heavy or Bomb. You'll also find character monitors that temporarily replace your partner with whoever's pictured. And then my personal favorite, the Grow monitor. It turns your character into a towering Godzilla-sized version of themselves, complete with boosted speed and jumping power.
Giant bee, you're lovely.
All these effects last about 20 seconds, which is just enough to go, wow! Followed by, wait, was that good? Before everything snaps back to normal and you walk away confused but mildly entertained. In Scenario Quest, the game actually lets you save your progress in one of 3 slots. Appreciate the small victories. Then, in an unexpected twist, you're thrown into a real tutorial, with actual on-screen instructions. Wait, what? So now you want to explain how the game works? What was the point of the entire training mode if you're just going to force a tutorial on me anyway? To be fair, this one has words, and arrows, and functionality. And since I'm playing the game for the first time, I won't complain. At this point, I'll take guidance from a fortune cookie if it tells me how this tether system works. Experienced players can skip this part though. The tutorial teaches you a handful of genuinely important mechanics. Press A to call your partner if they're stuck in a corner, but be warned, it costs 10 rings in normal gameplay. That's right, teamwork has a price. You can also hold and throw your partner, which sounds violent, but it's actually helpful. Holding B makes your partner stay put like an obedient house pet, and if you move away, their tether stretches like a cartoon slingshot. Let go of one button or the other, and bam, either you get flung forward or your partner comes flying into you like a surprise attack. In this game, that's way more useful than the spin dash. If you find yourself dangling from a ledge like your life is literally hanging by a thread, you can press down to charge a manual recoil that zips you back to your partner. It's weird, but it works. The tutorial is pretty solid, and then you're dropped back onto Isolated Island for one last warm-up. Here you solve extremely polite puzzles that involve standing on buttons to open doors. Low stakes teamwork 101. The level is again completely harmless. And then, finally, you're ready. It's time for the main event. You've been trained, tethered, and tutorialized. Let the chaos commence. You arrive at the main entrance, this game's hub world. There are 5 main zones in the game. Each zone contains 5 acts, but here's where it gets Sega. You don't progress through the levels linearly. No, that would be far too reasonable. Instead, you enter a giant rotating roulette wheel where you jump in and pray you land on the zone you actually want. It's less level select, more slot machine. Feeling lucky? You might play Amazing Arena Act 1, then get flung into Techno Tower Act 1, then back to Amazing Arena Act 2. Continuity? Never heard of her. The game doesn't really care what order you tackle things in, as long as you do them all eventually. It's like trying to assemble IKEA furniture with random pages of the manual missing. To spice things up further, before each level you pick your second character from a crane game. Yes, a literal crane game. Because nothing says fun like accidentally grabbing the character you hate the most and being stuck with them for the next 10 minutes. Because of the random nature of this game's level order, I'm not going to walk you through every single stage in the order I played them. Instead, I'll break down each chapter as a self-contained bundle. There's one more thing I'd like to tackle before we finally get to the levels. One of the more subtle, easily missed features in Knuckles Chaotix is its dynamic time of day system. That's right, every level in the game has 4 versions depending on when you enter it. Morning, afternoon, evening, and night. How does it work? Well, every time you complete a stage and return to the world entrance hub, time progresses forward. Beat another one, time moves again. The effect is mostly visual. The same stage might be bathed in soft orange sunlight during the evening or glowing with neon blue lights at night. There's no change to enemy placement or layout, and the music doesn't shift dramatically, but the overall atmosphere absolutely does. It's subtle enough that you might not notice it right away, especially when you're too busy slingshotting a crocodile into a wall, but once you see it, you'll realize, oh, that's actually kinda cool. So let's start with Marina Madness, a chapter that greets you with relaxing music and a general, hey, maybe this game won't hurt you vibe. This is where I first encountered the Combine Ring, a very cool little mechanic that was actually revived in Sonic Mania. When active, it fuses all your collected rings into one big super ring. Get hit? You only drop the one. And if you're fast enough to grab it back, you get all your rings back, no questions asked. Take too long and it explodes into a shimmering ring shower. The level itself is filled with floating airships, which look like they're in the background until you jump on one. Then you realize it's a platform. The perspective plays tricks on you. Sometimes you have to step on floor buttons to raise or lower the ships like you're solving an extremely chill elevator puzzle. The layout is mostly vertical, one of those slow but steady climbs that feel like ascending through an oddly friendly cruise terminal. There aren't that many enemies. The first 4 acts mostly let you vibe in peace. Every 5th act ends with a boss fight, and Marina Madness is no exception. Robotnik shows up for the big finale, now protected by a crystal shield that makes him look like he's hiding inside a novelty lamp. He floats around for a bit, opens the shield dramatically, and fires off crystalline projectiles like he's trying to win a street fight with a chandelier. It's a simple fight, very much a warm-up boss, but it gets the job done. I dig this entire chapter. It's colorful, pleasant, and oddly welcoming. It made me want to book a vacation. Wait, I am on vacation! Botanic Base throws you into a lush techno jungle where nature and machinery are apparently best friends. Like someone planted a rainforest inside a synthesizer. Unlike the more vertical structure of Marina Madness, Botanic Base takes a different approach. It's more Maze the Mountain. You're navigating elevators and those classic jump at a button to make doors open moments. But despite all the doors and crumbling tiles, the level isn't trying to hurt you. It's more of a scenic jog. You can cruise through the first 4 acts at a solid pace without encountering much resistance. experience. Act 5 steps it up a bit, not in difficulty, but in confusion. There are elevators that warp you to new areas, giving the whole thing a dream logic vibe. The boss is, well, it's barely a boss. Robotnik is holding your partner hostage in a mechanical claw. You dangle below, helpless and mildly annoyed, while he flies around and looks proud of himself. When his machine isn't electrified, you jump up and smack it. That's the whole fight. A light snack of a showdown. Still, I like Botanic Base. It's simple, fast, and doesn't overstay its welcome. Visually, it's a kaleidoscope of plants and glowing platforms. Gorgeous in stills, but borderline overwhelming in motion. It's like a nightclub exploded inside a greenhouse. Pretty to look at, occasionally hard to look at. But hey, at least it's memorable. Amazing Arena stands out from the crowd in all the wrong ways. And a few right ones, depending on your tolerance for confusion and your love of industrial lighting. Unlike the other zones in Knuckles Chaotix, which are mostly content with letting you bounce around like a tethered lunatic until you reach the end, Amazing Arena introduces an actual objective. Every act begins in total gloom. The lights are off, the colors are muted, and the vibe is somewhere between power outage and abandoned glowstick factory. You're supposed to locate a clock switch hidden somewhere in the level. Once the lights are on, the stage transforms visually. If you missed the clock and head straight for the exit like a normal person, congrats, you just wasted your time. The game lets you reach the end and then politely tells you it doesn't count. Try again, dummy. And sure, once the lights are on, the place looks nicer. But finding the clock? That's a whole side quest. There's an arrow in the top right corner of the screen pointing towards it, which sounds helpful until you realize the clock is often sealed behind walls or tucked into areas only accessible via specific moving platforms. Following the arrow blindly is like chasing a GPS signal in an Escher painting. Act 3 in particular broke me. It took me 4 attempts to even find the damn switch. I ran in circles, I checked every platform, every bounce pad, every questionable corridor. And still, nothing made spatial sense. As if that wasn't enough, Amazing Arena also introduces optional mini-bosses in every act. Emphasis on optional and mini. This guy goes down faster than my patience in Act 3. At the end of Act 5, Robotnik lobs wrecking balls and badniks at you. Just dodge the stuff and jump on him. In short, I really don't like Amazing Arena. It's without a doubt my least favorite part of the game. Not challenging in a fun way, just annoying. The visual aesthetic is interesting, the idea had potential, but the execution turns what could have been a clever gimmick into an endurance test in search of a payoff. Speed Slider is like Carnival Night Zone on LSD. It's an all-out assault on the senses. My brain can't process this many colors at once. This place is a literal roller coaster, and the title is telling the truth. Speed is absolutely the name of the game. You can blaze through most acts without ever engaging a single brain cell. That said, the moment you lose orientation, you'll discover that the level's directionality is ambiguous at best. Is this the way forward? Or did you just loop back to a place you passed 30 seconds ago? The game won't tell you. So you kind of squint, guess, and fling yourself forward until the exit shows up. Still, I'll say this. Speed Slider is the closest Knuckles Chaotix ever gets to feeling like a traditional Sonic game. Fast and mostly linear. Nothing groundbreaking, but fun in short bursts. Except for the tubes. I hate tubes. As for the boss, it's a carousel. Except instead of horses, it's armed with giant rotating spike platforms. Because Robotnik looked at a children's ride and thought, what if it maimed people? All you do is bop the dark blue ring in the center until it gives up. It's not difficult or particularly clever, but hey, it's thematically committed. In conclusion, Speed Slider gives you the illusion that you're good at the game. And sometimes, that's enough. And last we have Techno Tower, and it's going up. You're not exploring, you're ascending. Constantly. Relentlessly. Techno Tower is basically what happens when someone turns a skyscraper into a video game and says, climb this. This thing is tall, comically tall. For once, there's no real confusion. The path is straightforward. You go up, and then you keep going up. There are some hidden items tucked behind walls, but that's just window dressing. In terms of gimmicks, Act 5 gives you a little gift. A drill car. Yes, you heard me. A vehicle. You hop into this adorable contraption and smash through a wall. It's a one-off mechanic and it's gone before you know it. But hey, it's neat. This time Robotnik is inside a mech suit with a glass torso. He swings his arms around like he's trying to hail a cab during rush hour, and your job, once again, is to jump into the conveniently exposed weak spot, a glowing red ring dead center in his chest. chest. If you've fought one Chaotix boss, you've basically fought them all. All in all, Techno Tower doesn't impress, but it doesn't annoy either. It's aggressively average. But you know what? That's fine. Sometimes you don't need fireworks. Sometimes you just want a straightforward, mildly satisfying climb to the top of a neon tower with a drill car cameo. And in that incredibly specific niche, Techno Tower delivers. Now before we take on the final boss and hopefully get some closure from this elastic fever dream, there are two more types of stages worth mentioning. First up, the bonus stages. Much like the giant rings in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you can find hidden entrances to bonus stages scattered throughout the main zones. But here's the catch. This time you need at least 20 rings to access them. That's right, entry fee required. The ring economy is alive and well. Once inside, you're dropped into what I can only describe as a low gravity freefall through mid-90s vector graphics. You're falling. Welcome to the void. Well, actually your ring counter goes down. Items float all around you, blocks, icons, power-ups, and it's your job to collide with them. Some blocks speed up or slow down your fall. Some bounce you upward like you've offended them. Others give you rings or points. And some, because this game can't help itself, actually damage you. Which feels rude considering this was supposed to be the fun part. Then there are two special blocks worth hunting for. First, the slot block, which slows down the roulette wheel back in the world entrance. But the real prize is the combi catcher. Grab this and next time you pick your partner, you'll get a free character choice without any weird switching shenanigans. And in a game where partner choice can make or break your sanity, that alone makes these bonus stages worth seeking out. These stages can go on indefinitely. As long as you avoid the exit blocks and gather rings, you can keep falling and collecting until your eyes go numb. It's surprisingly relaxing, weirdly addicting, and visually not bad for the 32X. It's a refreshing break from the 2D chaos. Then of course we have special stages. Similar to Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, the game sends you to the special stage if you finish a level with 50 plus rings and jump into the giant ring. They are Sega's way of saying, "Look, the 32X can do 3D! Please notice. But instead of a half pipe or a rotating maze, you're dropped into a fully 3D hexagonal tunnel, and for 1995, it's pretty slick. The goal is simple. Collect a set number of blue spheres before your timer runs out. Your timer is your ring count, which ticks down like an unpaid parking meter. Lose all your rings or fall off the track and you're done. Collect everything in time and you get a chaos ring. There are 6 of these stages and grabbing all 6 earns you the good ending. Which, let's be real, is nice, but there's no bonus power-up. No Super Knuckles, not even a discount voucher for Carnival Island. The first time you play them, they feel ambitious. The ramps, the jumps, the sharp turns, it's a fun change of pace. But then, you play another one, and another. And you realize that, aside from the quota getting higher and the edges getting more slippery, you're basically running the same track over and over again. The novelty fades fast, replaced by that, "I've done this before" déjà vu. By the time you're on your 5th or 6th run, the adrenaline's gone and it starts feeling less like a reward and more like a chore. And here's the kicker. Even after collecting all 6 chaos rings, the game still lets you enter special stages. The difference is they now appear in wireframe mode, which looks kinda cool the first time you see it. Beat one and the game rewards you with 50,000 points, which does absolutely nothing except inflate your score and your sense of wasted potential. These wireframe stages can be hard on the eyes though. The minimal visuals along with the trippy background make it tricky to see exactly where you can and can't go, and after a while, the whole thing starts to feel like you're squinting your way through a geometry test. It hasn't aged all that well. What once looked futuristic now mostly looks like a migraine waiting to happen. They're still impressive for their time, but Chaotix's special stages are the kind of thing you enjoy once or twice before you start praying for the exit just so you can get back to flinging crocodiles into walls. Now that we've cleared all the stages, it's finally time to face the shiny blue imposter himself, Metal Sonic. This battle kicks off in the world entrance, where Metal Sonic has hijacked the stage select roulette machine. It's part boss fight, part slot machine hell. You trigger the fight by hitting the bumper, which randomly selects one of the 4 numbered panels or the dreaded X. If you hit X, you destroy the panel outright, which is good, but if you land on a number, Metal Sonic unleashes a corresponding attack. Missiles, saw blades, tentacles, you name it. Your job? Hit X enough times and watch panels disappear until all 4 are gone. Then he flees to Eggman. Coward. That first phase can drag. If the bumper keeps hitting numbered panels, you just repeat survival sequences without making real progress. You'd think that's the end, but he returns in his final form. The one, the only, Metal Sonic Kai. And wow. I have to say, I was not prepared for how big this guy is. He absolutely dominates the screen. Massive sprite work, huge mechanical arms. It's one of the most visually impressive bosses Sega ever put on the 32X. It's so over the top, you almost want to lose just to keep looking at it. Originally, this form was called Death Metal Sonic, which frankly is one of the coolest boss names ever conceived. Sadly, Sega later rebranded him as Metal Sonic Kai, which is fine I guess, but let's be real. If you're going to turn Metal Sonic into a skyscraper-sized war machine, Death Metal Sonic feels way more appropriate. The fight itself plays out in 3 distinct phases. First, Kai hovers to the right and attacks with his giant claw. Hit it 8 times to destroy it. Then he shifts to the background and tries to crush you from above. Another 8 hits. Finally, he moves to the left, charging up a devastating plasma pulse in his chest. When he's not charging, that glowing core is your target. Land 8 more hits and you win. The pattern is straightforward, but the sheer size and spectacle make it feel epic. The only downside? If you die during the Kai fight, you don't just get to retry that phase, you're sent all the way back to phase 1 to spin that cursed roulette wheel again. And nothing kills the hype for fighting a giant mechanical skyscraper faster than having to spend another 5 minutes praying to RNG before you even get to see him. When you finally win, it's worth it. Between the massive screen presence, the multi-phase destruction, and the fact that you're basically fighting a weaponized monument with anger issues, it's a finale worth remembering, even if part 1 makes you earn it the hard way. Knuckles Chaotix actually has 2 endings, and which one you get depends entirely on whether you've collected all 6 Chaos Rings. If you've missed any, the credits roll over a burning city while Metal Sonic Kai looms ominously above it like some kind of mechanical warlord. It's a surprisingly bleak visual for a game full of neon roller coasters and B-side kicks. Basically Sega saying, nice try, but you failed. Here's the apocalypse. But if you did collect all 6 Chaos Rings, the tone flips entirely. The rings rotate in formation around a glowing white text that simply says cool. And yes, with 4 O's, because 2 just wouldn't be enough. The credits then roll over a bright, cheerful scene. Knuckles and the Chaotix smiling on Carnival Island, while Sonic and Tails fly by in their tornado. So they do appear after all. It's upbeat, it's colorful, and it feels like an actual celebration rather than a guilt trip. For its time, I didn't expect more from the endings. They're bare bones, sure, but they get the job done. One says you're a hero, the other says you doomed civilization. Either way, the tethered chaos is finally over. Alright folks, let's talk about the music and sound. The sound effects in the game are exactly what you'd expect from a classic Sonic title. The familiar ring chimes, jump sounds and other audio cues return. This familiarity helps the game immediately feel like part of the Sonic family. The soundtrack, composed by Junko Shiratsu and Mariko Nanba, gives me mixed feelings. On one hand, it stays on brand for the Sonic series with a lively FM synth-driven sound. The OST takes advantage of the Sega 32X's audio setup, which piggybacks off the Mega Drive sound chip to deliver a very energetic and layered score. There's a lot of musical variety from groovy upbeat stage themes to moody ambient pieces. Every boss fight has its own music, so you're never stuck hearing the same boss tune over and over. This adds excitement and distinguishes each battle. The title screen music is another highlight. It's a bright, uplifting piece that welcomes you into the game. And then there's Evening Star in the world entrance. Smooth bass lines, soft synth chords, a laid-back groove that feels like sunset after a long day at the carnival. It's so cool that even the music changes depending on the time of day here. Despite these strengths, I feel the soundtrack falls just short of greatness due to a few notable issues. Several tracks lean heavily into a high-pitched, almost squealing style of instrumentation that can be fatiguing to the ears. The composers aimed for a mechanical vibe in many songs, with digitized trembles, jingling synths, and even harsh buzzing tones designed to evoke the high-tech carnival setting, but at times this approach backfires. In particular, a few tracks are problematic or grating to listen to. Speed Slider has an extremely shrill shrill melody and instrumentation. Its frantic high notes can become downright painful to hear after a while. Techno Tower is a loud, busy track that comes off as cacophonous. The mix feels unbalanced, with percussion and synths that are almost overwhelmingly noisy. Then the special stage music. A short, ultra-repetitive track that loops so frequently it can drive you insane after a few minutes. This theme's lack of variation makes special stages more irritating than they should be. Overall, most of the music is enjoyable and fits the stage well, but those few shrill tracks hold it back. Still, there's enough good stuff here that I want to present to you my favorites. So here are my top 5 songs from Knuckles Chaotix. Number 5. The song in Marina Madness blesses us with a laid-back groove, a bright melody, and that breezy swing that makes platforming feel like a beach walk. It never screeches, never crowds the mix, just smooth, sunny momentum. Number 4. The Botanic Base music starts with a shrill intro that could have ruined the whole thing. But stick with it. Once it settles in, it blooms into a lively, catchy lead that lifts the entire track. Might be the most memorable song for me because some parts of it are simply beautiful. Number 3. Hands down the most badass piece in the entire soundtrack. Heavy bass, sharp percussion, and a driving melody that feels way too intense for a fight this easy. It's like the music is trying to convince you you're in a life or death struggle, while Robotnik's just sort of hovering there. Number 2. Pure first stage optimism. Bouncy rhythm, instantly memorable motif, and that classic sonic lift that makes you want to sprint. Forget all your worries and just live, man. Number 1. The bonus stage music is peak Chaotix. Funky bass, razor-sharp rhythm programming, and a lead that dances on top instead of stabbing your eardrums. It actually reminds me of my favorite track in Sonic CD, the Japanese special stage theme. Both are equally unique, driving, and impossible to mistake for anything else in the series. And conveniently, both happen to hit exactly the kind of groove I love. Let's wrap this up. Knuckles Chaotix is a fascinating mess, bursting with ideas, constantly tripping over them. It had all the ingredients to be the next big step for Sonic. I like the ambition. The elastic tether mechanic can feel great when you nail a slingshot. The character variety is fun, the combined ring is a clever twist, the day-night palette shifts add atmosphere, and the soundtrack, when it behaves, delivers legit highlights. The bonus stages are a neat 32x flex, and the final showdown looks incredible. The sprites look fantastic, detailed, vibrant, and full of personality. It might just be the best looking Sonic game of that era. Animations are smooth, character expressions pop, and the environments are bursting with color and motion. When the screen isn't trying to burn your retinas, it's genuinely impressive what they pulled off visually. The game basically hands you a sandbox of physics and personality to play with. Mastering the elastic band means mastering all of these oddballs and their quirks. It's a crazy balancing act, and part of the game's quirky charm is seeing how each new pair-up can swing from smooth synergy to total disaster at the drop of a ring. It may be a Sonic spin-off with a gimmicky reputation, but credit where it's due. There's genuine thought in how these characters were designed. If nothing else, Chaotix deserves a slow clap for daring to ask, what if a platformer's cast were as unpredictable as its physics? And then answering that with a roster where even the good guys can be walking hazards. It's a ridiculous ride, and thanks to this motley crew, it's never the same ride twice. But there's a lot I didn't like. Training mode barely teaches anything, only for scenario quests to force a proper tutorial anyway. We can't wrap this up without talking about the tether system, because let's be honest, it's the entire reason Knuckles Chaotix exists. The elastic band between you and your partner is the game's central gimmick, mechanic, and sometimes mortal enemy. Learning how to make it work feels like training to walk a dog that's also trying to walk you. But, and this is important, when it clicks, it can be genuinely satisfying. You can slingshot yourself across huge gaps and chain together movement in a way that feels completely unique. There's a physics rhythm to it, and when you hit that rhythm, Chaotix feels like it's rewarding you for surviving the learning curve. The problem is getting there. And when you don't, it's not just clunky, it actively fights the flow of gameplay. You'll get stuck on slopes, yanked backwards mid-jump. And because the entire game is built around this one mechanic, there's no alternative. If you don't get good at it, if you don't learn how to time partner throws, slingshots, and directional tension, you're going to have a miserable time. So yes, the tether system is bold, original, and in the right hands, even fun. But it's also one of the most demanding and unrefined control mechanics Sega ever put in a Sonic-adjacent game. You have to master it, not just tolerate it. Because if you don't, the game will make sure you regret every decision that brought you here. It's not just part of the experience, it is the experience. For better, and definitely for worse. The level roulette undercuts pacing and coherence. And why does every stage need 5 acts? Some levels feel like they have just enough ideas for 2, maybe 3. By act 5, even the nice ones start to wear out their welcome. Partner randomness is cute until Heavy and Bomb tank the flow. Special stages are ambitious but quickly become repetitive and tedious. And several music tracks skew shrill or just loud enough to wear you down. Even the finale stumbles. Phase 1's roulette can drag forever, and if you die to Kai, you're sent back to spin it again. In Knuckles Chaotix, the whole lives system is basically thrown out the window. There are no extra lives to collect. You start with 1 life and you'll end with 1 life. And there are also no checkpoints in the stages. When your partner dies, they respawn after a few seconds. Be careful during that time. If you mess up, you're sent straight back to the world entrance. The upside is that you're not burning through lives like in a traditional Sonic game, so there's no game over panic hanging over you. The downside is, without checkpoints, a mistake late in the act means replaying the whole thing from the start. Something that gets old fast in the longer or more puzzle-heavy stages. But to be fair, the game is pretty easy. I died maybe 2 or 3 times. Oh, and there's another thing I haven't mentioned yet. You can play this game in 2-player co-op. I actually roped my friend P-Rex into going through the entire game with me. And let me tell you, if you think Knuckles Chaotix is chaotic in single player, that's just the warm-up act. In solo play, you're tethered to an AI partner who, while occasionally brain dead, at least doesn't have free will. In co-op, you're tethered to another human being, someone who can and will yank you off platforms, slingshot you into spikes, and miss time jumps in ways that defied physics textbooks. It's way more chaotic, but also a lot funnier. You really have to communicate constantly when to stop, when to jump, when to sling, otherwise you'll spend half the level dragging each other in opposite directions like 2 stubborn dogs on 1 leash. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it might be the most authentic way to play the game. We yelled, we laughed, we blamed each other for everything. It was perfect. Let's ask P-Rex for his opinion. So, how did you like this game?
Ja, zuerst mal möchte ich sagen, dass ich leider keinerlei Respekt für dieses Spiel habe, und das hat auch einfach einen ganz einfachen Grund, weil es ist halt einfach scheiße. Es macht keinen Spaß. Man quält sich durch die Levelarchitektur ist scheiße wie der Rest vom Spiel. Es soll ein Sonic-Spiel sein, also was kein Sonic-Spiel ist, weil es hat keinen Gameplay-Flow, es hat keine Geschwindigkeit, die Levelarchitektur ist eine Katastrophe dafür, bremst einen immer wieder aus. Wobei man sagen muss, der Multiplayer-Modus ist noch eine Stufe über den Singleplayer-Modus, der ist nicht nur scheiße, der ist scheiße. Der Schwierigkeitsgrad ist auch eine Katastrophe, kann man nicht anders sagen. Das Spiel ist eigentlich nicht richtig schwer, wird aber durch die unmögliche Steuerung, die eigentlich keine Steuerung ist, weil ja eine Steuerung wird ja voraussetzen, dass man irgendwie aktiver steuern kann. Im Multiplayer-Modus, vergiss es, kann man nicht. Wer auf die Idee gekommen ist, beim Sonic-Spielen ein Rubberband oder wie auch immer die diesen Schmutz genannt haben, Spielmechanik einzubauen. 2 Spieler sind zusammengebunden. Im Einzelplayer ist es ein NPC, im Multiplayer ist es eine arme Seele, die in dem Fall ich war. Man bremst sich halt andauernd aus, man wird hin und her geschleudert. Man kann nichts dagegen machen, die Steuerung, die viel zu überladen ist, die auch sämtlichen Flow aus dem Titel rausnimmt. es ist einfach nicht mehr schnell, es fühlt sich nicht gut an, es fühlt sich einfach nur an, man ist zusammengekettet, man kann auch weniger machen, wie man eigentlich machen könnte, wenn es funktioniert, wenn die Steuerung gut wäre. Nee, wäre auch dann nicht gut, weil dann ist das Leveldesign halt auch immer noch scheiße und dieses ganze Spiel ist einfach scheiße. Man kann es jetzt versuchen zu erklären, aber es ist einfach von vorne bis hinten Müll. Das Einzige, was mir da einfällt, was positiv ist, ist in Teilen die Musik. Ich weiß nicht mal mehr, wie dieses Spiel heißt. Was auch sehr, also was sehr für dieses Spiel spricht, dass ich mir das nicht merken konnte. Ich habe gedacht, das heißt Sonic Chaotix, heißt es nicht. Ich habe jetzt in der kurzen Zeit schon wieder vergessen, wie die Scheiße heißt. Auch ein super Geniestreich. Es gibt keine feste Levelreihenfolge, es wird quasi ausgelost an der Slotmaschine, wenn ich das richtig erinnern kann. Toll. Es zieht sich auch wie Gummi, nicht nur diese scheiß Drecksdynamik zieht sich wie ein Gummi, sondern das ganze Spiel zieht sich wie ein Gummi. Es ist alles eine Katastrophe. Es gibt eine Figur, die kann fliegen, was das ganze Ding eigentlich komplett obsolet macht, weil das ist einfach so wie der Gottmod, weil du halt überall hinfliegen kannst, wo du normalerweise diese super ausgefuchste, intuitive Steuerung ausnutzen möchtest. Oder sollst mit einem Pipapo, du kannst einfach hinfliegen. Es ist einfach komplett, dieses Spiel zerstört sich im Prinzip selbst, wie es meine Lebensfreude zerstört hat. Also abschließend, klare 10 von 10.
Instead of a franchise pillar, Chaotix became the series' weird cousin, brought up in whispers, left off the guest list. Some of that is timing and platform. Launching as a 32X exclusive was like premiering your blockbuster on a bus stop TV. It was built to show off the add-on's extra colors, scaling and processing power, things the stock Mega Drive couldn't quite handle without major compromises. Chaotix was meant to sell the hardware. Instead, it launched on a doomed system, instantly limiting its reach. It's a project packed with ideas that rarely line up at the same time. The fallout is legacy. Sega loves to re-release everything with a pulse. Sonic Drift has made the rounds multiple times, yet Chaotix is perpetually missing from compilations. Like the company is quietly embarrassed by it. And that's tragic because the concept deserved another pass. A thoughtful remaster could fix so much. Replace the roulette with clear progression, teach the tether properly, rebalance partners, clean up the mix, and prune the shrillness. Keep the combined ring, the day-night vibes, the character variety, and the boss spectacle. There's a great Sonic-adjacent game hiding here. You catch glimpses of it every time the slingshot sings. So where does that leave it? In my ranking of the Sonic games I've reviewed so far, I'm placing it between Triple Trouble and Mean Bean on Game Gear. For me, Knuckles Chaotix is mediocre and disappointing, precisely because the potential is obvious. I'm not as critical of it as my buddy P-Rex, who really hated the experience. It's not the disaster its reputation suggests. It's the almost. The experiment Sega ran on a doomed add-on that never got its second draft. And given how often the company digs up its past, the fact this one stays buried says a lot. Despite all that, I'm glad I finally played it. It's a fascinating time capsule with flashes of something genuinely new, and it answers a question I've had for years. But I'm equally glad I didn't remortgage my sanity for a 32X in an original card. Experiencing Chaotix was worth it. Paying collector prices for it? Absolutely not. Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 10 of season 5. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. You can also support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you like. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.